Hello students. Today's video is about comparison of fractions with same numerator. We are going to learn how to compare fractions that have the same numerator. Here we have a pizza that is divided into 3 equal pieces. What fraction of the pizza above does each piece represent? Of course, each piece represents one part out of 3, so it represents 1/3 of the pizza. Now we have an identical pizza, the same pizza, but it's divided into 4 equal pieces. What fraction of the pizza above does each piece represent? So, of course, each piece represents one part out of 4, so it represents the fraction 1/4. Now let's compare the size of the pieces in each pizza. Here we notice that each piece in this first pizza is bigger in size than each piece in this second pizza. So we noted that each piece in the first pizza is bigger in size than each piece in the second pizza. Now let's compare the fractions 1/3, 1/3, and 1/4, 1/4. Here, by looking at the figures, we can notice that one piece out of 3 is bigger in size than one piece out of 4, so the fraction 1/3 is greater than 1/4. Now let's deduce a rule. Here we notice that these two fractions, they have the same numerator 1. And the fraction 1/3 is the greatest fraction, although it has the smallest denominator, it's the greatest fraction. Why? Here we notice if we divide a unit into a lesser number of pieces, the size of the piece will be bigger. And when we divide a unit into a greater number of pieces, the size of each piece will be smaller. So if two fractions have the same numerator, the greatest fraction is the one that has the least or smallest denominator, and the smallest fraction is the one that has the greatest denominator. So rule, if two fractions have the same numerator, the greatest fraction is the one that has the least or smallest denominator. Now let's do this example. Compare the following fractions. In this first figure, the blue parts represent the fraction 3/4. 3 blue parts colored out of 4, and here we have 3 parts colored out of 8. So they represent the fraction 3/8. And here it's obvious that these 3 pieces out of 4 are much bigger in size than the 3 pieces out of 8. So the fraction 3/4 is greater than 3/8 because when we divide the unit into a lesser number of pieces, the size of the pieces will be bigger. Now, second example, this yellow piece represents the fraction 1/4, and here this fraction 1/2. And of course, 1/4 is less than 1/2. In this next example, the green parts represent the fraction 2/6, and here the fraction 2/3, and of course 2/6 is less than 2/3. Here these 6 colored pieces in purple, they represent the fraction 6/14, and the 6 colored parts, green parts, here represent the fraction 6/18, and 6/14 is greater than 6/18. These 6 pieces are bigger in size. And here the last figure, here we have two pieces colored in blue out of 10. They represent the fraction 2/10, and here 2 over 5. And of course, 2 over 10 is less than 2 over 5. Exercise 1. Arrange the fractions in the figure in ascending or increasing order. This is part 1. So here we have 5 fractions, 1 over 6, 1 over 8, 1/2, 1/3, and 1/4. If we look at the pieces here, we notice that 1/2 is the greatest fraction. So here these 5 fractions, they all have the same numerator 1. And of course, if fractions have the same numerator, the greatest fraction is the one that has the smallest denominator, and the smallest fraction is the one that has the greatest denominator. So first, let's remember ascending or increasing order means from the smallest to the greatest. Of course, the fraction 1 over 8 is the smallest. The piece here colored in green is the smallest one. So 1 over 8 represents the smallest quantity. 1 over 8 is less than 1 over 6, less than 1/4, less than 1/3, and the greatest fraction is 1/2. So here don't forget the symbol less than when you arrange fractions from the smallest to the greatest. Question 2, arrange the fractions in the figure in descending or decreasing order. Let's remember that descending or decreasing order means from the greatest to the smallest. When you descend, you go from the highest floor to the lowest floor. So here the greatest fraction is 1/2, the one that has the smallest denominator, and the smallest fraction is 1 over 8, the one that has the greatest denominator. So 1 over 2, 1/2, is greater than 1/3, greater than 1/4, greater than 1 over 6, greater than 1 over 8. Exercise 2. Write a fraction less than 5 over 9 having 5 as numerator. So we need to find a fraction. We write the over. We need to find the missing numerator and denominator such that this fraction should be less than 5 over 9. But here we know that it has 5 as numerator. We know its numerator. Here these two fractions have the same numerator 5. And a fraction, if two fractions have the same numerator, the smallest fraction is the one that has the greatest denominator. So here, of course, the denominator should be greater than 9. So the denominator should be greater than 9. So we choose any number that is greater than 9. Here they asked us to find a fraction, one fraction only. We don't have to write more than one possibility. For example, it can be 10, and 5 over 10 is one of the correct possibilities. Question 2, write a fraction greater than 7 over 10 having 7 as numerator. We need to find a fraction, the missing numerator and denominator, such that this fraction is greater than 7 over 10. Here we know that its numerator is 7, so we write 7 above. A fraction, if two fractions here, like here, they have the same numerator 7. If two fractions have the same numerator, the greatest fraction is the one that has the smallest denominator. So here, the denominator should be, of course, less than 10. So we choose any number that is less than 10 except for 0. The denominator cannot be 0. Why? Because actually the over is the same as divided by. 7 over 10 is the same as 7 divided by 10. 7 over 0 is the same as 7 divided by 0. 7 over 0 is equal to 7 divided by 0. And of course we learned that we cannot divide by 0. The divisor cannot be 0. It's impossible. But the dividend can be 0. We can do 0 divided by 7 is 0. 0 is multiple of all numbers. But not all numbers are multiples of 0, which this is completely wrong. So the denominator can never be 0. For example, we chose a number less than 10, for example, 9. And 7 over 9 is a correct possibility. So this is the end of the video. Thank you for watching.